This is CBC Vancouver News.
A school bus carrying students crashes down an embankment in BC's interior, and police say one person in a second collision has died. Plus,
we believe that the wood was treated with a chemical. The wood is very old. That led to the smoke being produced by the fire last night to be really black and obviously very visible.
Richmond fire crews try to figure out what sparked a massive blaze that spread from an industrial building to an oil railway bridge across the Fraser River. Also,
we just want to promote the culture and Indigenous pride.
Our legacy is that we're still here. We're speaking our language.
We mark National Indigenous Peoples Day in BC with celebrations and reconciliation. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. We begin in BC's interior, where a school bus carrying students crashed around 1 o'clock this afternoon on Highway 97 just north of Lac-La-Hache. Just after the bus crash, a second collision happened at the same place. Cindy Marcotte was traveling to Prince George when she came across the bus crash and found out it involved school-aged children.
Well, I started to cry. I was so horrified, I didn't know what to do, and I was thinking of the parents. I thought, oh my good God, you know, I'm a mom and a grandma, and the kids, you know, it's the end of school. And with all the number of emergency vehicles arriving on the scene, I knew this was no minor incident.
Mounties say more than 30 people were on the bus, including students and staff. All passengers on the bus have been accounted for, but police say numerous people were taken to the hospital with various injuries. We don't know how serious. The superintendent of the Cariboo Chilcotin School District says the students are in grades 6 and 7 and are from 100 Mile Elementary and Horse Lake Elementary. He says the students were on their way home from a field trip to Gavin Lake. Just after the bus crash, a second collision happened on the same stretch of highway. Mounties say one person was struck and killed by a vehicle. The collision shut down the highway for several hours, causing massive traffic delays. The highway has since reopened. An air quality warning has been dropped after crews put out that massive fire at an industrial site in Richmond last night. Fire crews are now trying to figure out what sparked the fire that spread to an abandoned railway trestle. As Michelle Gassoub reports, we're also learning more about a chemical compound that caused air quality to plunge.
The morning after a massive fire, hotspots are still smoldering, even openly burning, on a railway trestle meters from the River Rock Casino, with fire crews working to put those spots out.
We'll be tackling those hotspots today and beginning the plan for developing our cause and origin investigation. We're working with the property owners and our other partners here in the city.
The fire started Thursday night around 8 p.m. It's believed to have started in this industrial area before spreading to the trestle. Once the fire hit the old railway bridge, it sent thick black smoke into the air. Richmond Fire said the wood had been treated by a wood tar preservative called creosote.
The wood is very old, and so that method of construction is quite dated as well. And so that led to the smoke being produced by the fire last night to be really black and obviously very visible when the fire was happening.
According to this report from the federal government, creosote is used in Canada as a heavy-duty wood preservative for railway ties, bridge timbers, pilings, and large-sized lumber. The report says there isn't currently enough data to say whether creosote is entering the environment at a rate that could be considered harmful. That dramatic smoke was enough to trigger an air quality statement for all of Metro Vancouver. Thanks to Friday winds, that statement has been lifted. Operations at nearby YVR Airport haven't been impacted.
What we're seeing from our air quality monitoring stations is very low concentrations of fine particulate matter, which would be the clearest indicator of the smoke. And we expect now that will remain for the coming few days at least.
Firefighters battled the flames for nearly 12 hours and report no one was injured. The fire chief today confirmed this trestle that has not been in use for many years is owned by CP Rail, and multiple levels of government will now be responsible for the cleanup. That's going to include the trestle itself, the industrial area, as well as debris that is now in the water, and there is no exact timeline for just how long that cleanup could take. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Richmond.
In Kelowna, fire crews responded to a blaze in the city's Rutland neighborhood. It started around 4:30 this afternoon. Flames that were coming from within a two-story duplex have burnt through the roof and melted one side of the building. It's unclear if anyone has been hurt or what sparked the fire. One person has died in a house fire in Abbotsford. Crews there say other people inside at the time are now in the hospital with various injuries. Fire crews were called to the house on Pineview Avenue shortly after 6 o'clock Thursday morning. Paramedics treated six people, 3 were taken to hospital.
Crews arrived to find a house heavily involved with smoke and flames coming out of the rear of the house. There was reports of occupants in the building. Crews quickly performed a defensive fire attack, entered the building, and removed 6 occupants from the building.
Crews are now trying to figure out what caused the fire. Officials say there is significant structural damage to the building and to the items inside the house. The Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner is calling its first ever public hearing into allegations of sexualized misconduct against Kieran McConnell, a Vancouver police officer. Liam Burton has more on the allegations he's facing and what the hearing might lead to.
There's going to be a public hearing over allegations a longtime Vancouver police officer and university instructor sexually harassed 7 women. 4 were his students at 2 universities, and 3 were fellow VPD officers. So who is this officer? Kieran McConnell, a 33-year Vancouver police veteran, a gang expert and instructor at Kwantlen University and other schools. The Office of the Police Complaints Commissioner says the allegations are serious. In one case, a former student says he went out drinking with students, got into her cab, and wouldn't let her leave and tried to kiss her. McConnell is accused of using a power imbalance as a VPD leader and someone who could help the careers of future officers. So what could this all lead to? Well, McConnell could be demoted, suspended, or even fired from the VPD. But to be clear, he has not been charged criminally and the allegations have not been proven. And in the meantime, McConnell has been suspended by the VPD. We asked if he's still getting paid, but we've not yet heard back. Kwantlen says McConnell is an instructor, but wouldn't say more. We called McConnell, but he wouldn't talk. Hearing dates haven't been set.
Capilano University has closed 2 of its campuses as a safety precaution after the student says a student threatened another student with violence on Thursday. The threat was specific to CapU campus, so CapU closed both its Lonsdale and main campuses in North Vancouver for the day. Police have been notified and the school says there is no ongoing threat to students. The campuses are expected to reopen tomorrow. Crews are back on site near False Creek to repair and figure out the source of that broken sewer main that caused waste to flood roads in Olympic Village.
We're still in the excavation mode. We haven't got to the part of the pipe that failed, so we won't know that until we see the pipe.
Metro Vancouver says it is flushing fresh water through Hinge Park, and there is no impact to service for people or businesses in the area. Officials add environmental sampling of False Creek confirms the Dragon Boat Festival is safe to proceed this weekend. As summer in BC officially begins, health experts are once again reminding you about the impacts of hot weather, especially for those working in the sun. As Sorab Sandhu reports, one doctor says people need to take any signs of heat exhaustion seriously.
Dave Willis says his work schedule remains unchanged even on a hot day, when working outdoors can be challenging.
If you can try to find some shade, sometimes that's always good too.
Willis says on a hot day like this, he tries to keep himself hydrated.
It's important for sure.
But medical experts say merely staying hydrated may not be enough. They're asking people to have a plan to deal with the heat this summer, especially for those working outdoors.
Putting some cold compresses in that cooler for yourself to put around your neck, under your armpits to keep yourself cool, drinking a lot of water and staying hydrated.
Experts say exposure to extreme heat could lead to serious illnesses.
Your skin might be very hot and very red compared to normal. You might be very confused and you might actually lose consciousness. So if you see any of those signs, of course, that's an emergency.
Newhouse says most of the heat-caused illness doctors see in emergency rooms are work-related.
On the extreme end of things, we can see heat illness like heat exhaustion and even heat stroke. And those are quite dangerous. And so we actually do see those in people who work outside.
However, Newhouse says heat-related illnesses can also impact those working indoors if the environment lacks proper ventilation. She says it's up to the employers to check on their workers' well-being.
Monitoring how well their workers are doing, making sure that they have break time, especially in shaded areas and areas that are a little bit cooler.
WorkSafe BC says over the last 3 years they have seen more than 240 accepted claims related to heat stress and is reminding employers to plan ahead to protect workers from extreme heat and wildfire smoke. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Surrey.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our weekend weather. Darius, it was quite the scorcher today. What does that mean for fire danger around the province?
Yeah, as you can see, Janella, it's jumped up quite a bit. This is probably the highest fire danger we've seen across BC in a long time. Now, this isn't likely to come down tomorrow. Temperatures remaining high for many places, especially in the interior where we're seeing that fire danger really start to rise quickly. For some places, north and central coast, parts of the island, we'll see some rain, we'll see some cooler temperatures, but not going to see too much relief too quickly as temperatures stay warm in the interior, at least until Sunday. Now, we're going to have this low pressure system roll over, and again, that will bring some precipitation and some cooler temperatures to many people, but it's not going to last too long. It heads off, and then we see this high pressure system start to build in from the south, so we get this ridge of high pressure blanketing the province for at least a couple days at the beginning of next week, so that bring temperatures back up again. And then that low pressure system that we did see there is going to move in on Wednesday. Probably. That could change, but for now, that's what the timeline is looking like. So maybe some more rain coming next Wednesday. In terms of temperatures, though, those staying high tomorrow in most places and then starting to come down as we get into Sunday and especially Monday. Might be a couple degrees cooler on the coast tomorrow, but generally speaking, fairly similar. If we take a look at the precipitation coming across BC, you'll see plenty coming for the more northern parts of the island and the north and central coast. Not so much coming down here for us, at least not in the next couple days. By the middle of next week, that might change. And for much of the interior, getting a few showers, but not all that much precipitation. Nothing too serious and nothing that's going to really budge our fire danger in the long term as we see that continue to come back up. Now, in terms of conditions across the province, some storms possible in the central interior tomorrow, especially afternoon, evening. Some precipitation coming for the coast and storms up in the northwest. Beyond that, lots of sunshine for many people. Some cloud will probably build in for later in the day for most people, including us here in Vancouver, but generally lots of sunshine still. And that's what we're seeing in the forecast. Plenty of sunshine still, maybe some showers here in Vancouver on Sunday, Metro Vancouver, but mostly in the Alpine and inland. And it's the same thing before you see that next precipitation possible, very much up in the air on Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Darius.
Thank you.
The Edmonton Oilers are off to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final after beating the Florida Panthers 5-1 at home.
They will Monday night play a one-game showdown for all the marbles and the Stanley Cup.
The Oilers are celebrating tonight after fighting their way back from a 3-0 deficit in the series, now tied 3 games apiece, extending their victorious comeback story. And that has Oiler fans in Vancouver fired up.
We know we're taking it home. We know it.
Crazy. You go from the lowest low to the highest high.
Everybody said, oh, we're done back in the day when we were the 31st in the league, and now we're going to the finals, baby. We got 1 game left.
The Oilers are the first team to tie the final after falling behind 3-0 in the series since the Detroit Red Wings in 1945. They will have the chance Monday night in Florida to join the Toronto Maple Leafs as the only NHL teams to come all the way back from that deficit to hoist the Stanley Cup. After the break, we take a look at festivities, memorials, and community events happening across the province to mark National Indigenous Peoples Day. Stay with us. Today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, a time to celebrate Indigenous culture in all its forms. When we think of Indigenous culture, many think of traditional territories, but often overlooked on this day, are urban Indigenous people who make their lives away from their traditional homes. Janella Hamilton tells us more about why recognizing their identities are so important.
It's National Indigenous Peoples Day, which gives us a chance to honor and celebrate the culture and contributions of Indigenous people everywhere. The day is rich with displays of culture like powwows, drumming, and dancing. There's also art, spoken word, speeches, and Métis jigging. These practices can draw a direct connection to tribal homes, the places many people come from. But remember, Metro Vancouver has the third largest urban Indigenous population in Canada, behind Winnipeg and Edmonton. Urban Indigenous people have their own distinct community, leaders, challenges, and accomplishments. They might not have lived here since time immemorial, as some nations here have, but they have a distinct history and legacy that stands on its own. According to longtime advocate Scott Clark, Vancouver's first urban Indigenous people arrived here after they were forced off their land and displaced from nearby villages, making their way into the city to find work. And as I have witnessed, there are many residential school survivors who were estranged from their communities and families who chose to live in the city rather than return home. It's my opinion that urban Indigenous people are living proof that assimilation failed. As their numbers grew, they developed a distinct identity, one that continues today. They sought each other out, congregating and settling mostly in what is now East Vancouver. Communities are also growing in Surrey. These connections help create thriving friendship centers, housing societies, at one time a commercial fishing association, and a homemakers association, not to mention countless sports teams. They may not live in their homelands, but many remain fiercely proud of their tribal roots and maintain family connections. You don't forsake your indigeneity by being urban and Indigenous, nor do you sever your connection to your homeland by living far away. If anything, these bonds strengthen over time. On Indigenous Peoples Day, maintaining your indigeneity while living in the city is something worth celebrating. In Vancouver, I'm Janella Hamilton.
As we mentioned, festivities, memorials, and community events are happening across the province today, from Vancouver Island to the Kootenays. Here's a look at a few of them.
Welcome to the second annual National Indigenous Peoples Day Block Party.
I'm grateful that we are all able to share this time here on the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation, Tsleil-Waututh and Musqueam people.
Each territory, we all have different songs. We're not the same. We all have different languages, there's different dialects. Us as Indigenous people, we want our people to be seen, we want our voices to be heard, and this is what this day is about.
Well, for one, it's my grandmother's birthday, Manukam, and it's National Indigenous Day, so it's a day to celebrate being me, being a minority, being a First Nations person, and really it's just a great day to make sure as many people out there remember the culture. That's pretty much it. We gotta remember our culture.
It's probably the most natural place in Victoria, so I think we have to cherish this land that we're on. You're welcome to come ashore and join in the festivities. Thanks, Musqueam.
It's a very important day. It takes a day for everybody to realize, this is this is the land that we're on. It's a lot of people kind of forget what land they're on, and that they're on Turtle Island, and that that the first people are still here, and we're still here. We're proud. We're still doing our dances. We're still doing our ceremonies, our celebrations, and we're still proud to be here.
Here we have a shot of BC Place lit up in teal, orange, and red for National Indigenous Peoples Day. When we return, we'll tell you about an item people use every day that has Indigenous roots. On this National Indigenous Peoples Day, we're recognizing the trailblazers that broke barriers and helped shape this country. A project by CBC Indigenous called First does just that. Here they show us an item people use every day, but you may not know the idea sprouted from an Indigenous creation, the predecessor to modern sunglasses, snow goggles.
So this is a pair of goggles that belonged to my step-great-grandfather Paka from Baker Lake. You can see it's made out of wood and sewn here for the sides with caribou skin. So Paka was a special constable. So when you go out hunting on the land, you need to wear such snow goggles to prevent snow blindness. The sun reflects off the snow or the ice, and these help because the little slits here, it's enough to see out, but it also protects the eyes from the sun. And Inuktitut, they're called Iggaak, Iggaak.
That is so cool. A little bit of history I had no idea about. That is your late news for Friday, June 21st. Thank you so much for watching tonight. For news at any time, you can always visit our website at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 6:30. We'll see you tomorrow.